How might your perspective on failure be different? So because back then you were very like, I don't want to fail. Like I want to get a safety net, safe house, safe, safe, right? How do you view failure now, and how might that be different? Do you feel like you need to fail fast, fail forward, or do you say, actually, no, just avoid failure and stand back and make more calculated decisions? What's your thought on that?
So I'm very risk adverse in general. I may not perceive it from what I get up to these days, but I have always been. So even in what I've said here, how many people do you know that were working 5-6 hours every night while working full-time plumbing just to navigate the risk of failure? Right. So I would never have jumped from my job straight into eBay with no buffers, not having income from other areas, because that pressure would have been too much for me. It would have caused analysis paralysis. It would have caused me overanalyzing it. Like I would have been literally too scared to make a mistake because I had no experience. Keep in mind, I'm a 16-year-old that dropped out of high school to do a plumbing apprenticeship. I only know how to write with one of those big tradie pencils at this point. I refer to everything in millimeters and everyone's mate. So that's the context of my life at this point. And I'm now running a logistics business and selling things on the internet. So it's like, for me, that jump was immense. So I wanted to create an environment where it was a better place to fail. Now, knowing what I know now, like I still stand by that as being a good decision for me to be able to make that jump. I didn't have kids or partner risk, and I always could go make money in plumbing. So that's the way I kind of looked at it from there. Now, my perspective on failure and fail fast and all these things, there seems to be a whim of people that like take pride in fucking things up instead of thinking. And it's like, I just go, a lot of the failures that happen could have been avoided with education, mentorship, and actually thinking through what you're doing. Like a lot of people go, oh, actually, that was a terrible idea. And then conversely, a lot of people are way too scared to do anything, and then they never take any risk. Like risk is a part of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. It's an interesting perspective because it is a balance. I think it's a balance. I again, this probably goes back to a little bit of from through my history, but I've never been afraid of failure. I've never seen failure as failure specifically. I'm more just like, okay, that's interesting. Move on, because I have a firm and robust belief that everything will be fine.
Like, I don't at all. I find this so fascinating in differences here. It's like, not to say I was fear driven, though I definitely was. And it's like very conservative. And it's like, I admire your ability to live in the moment at such embracement.
Yeah. It was at the edges of extreme, but the problem with that, and I'll acknowledge it, is that because I don't have a fear of failure. It's like, I always take every decision. We sort of spoke about this on a previous episode, I think. I take every decision. If I have a big decision where there's a lot of risk associated with it, I always follow mentally. I'm like, let's go to the end point. What's everything that could go wrong? And eventually, if you go far enough down that train of thought, it ends in death, right? That's what happens at the end. If that's when everything go wrong. And I always get to that point and go, am I okay with all of these things happening all the way up to death? I'm like, yeah, it'd probably be fine. And so the problem with that thinking is that it sometimes doesn't put any throttles on, because you're just like, oh, well, what's the worst that could happen? I can live with all of that. So, which is good and bad, because it allows you to seize a lot of opportunities. But sometimes it's a little too risk tolerant.